Hey. Please, don't slam that door, the hostess gestured at me, angrily. I'm Mr. Morales's daughter. I'll slam whatever I want. I shouted at her. How dare she? I apologize, señorita, she looked scared half to death. Well, she should be. I was the one inheriting this business. Not my sister, Sophia, and she should know that. It better not happen again, or I'm telling Papa. I scolded. Yes, Ms. Morales. I walked out into the main room, where everyone was seated and eating their food. My great-grandfather started this restaurant in his quiet and empty home, after his wife had passed away. It has been in our family for generations. Now, it is one of the most famous Spanish restaurants in America. He called it Cocina del Abuelo, or Grandpa's Kitchen in English. I was here today to sign the will. When I got to my father's office in the back, my mama, papa, and sister were sitting around the desk, Sophia with a pen in her hand. Oh. Hola Camilla. Mama said. What is this nonsense? I thought I got the restaurant. I shouted. Sophia quickly signed the will. Sorry, señorita. But I do. And you know what I'm gonna do with it? Sell it as soon as he dies. Sophia yelled at me, giggling. Papa and Mama stared at each other big-eyed. Sophia Tito Morales. You cannot be serious. Mama yelled. Father began to get teary-eyed. I felt like I was in a telenovela. Sorry, bitches. I am. Bye. Sophia said and quickly ran out of the room. I myself was shocked. My sister wasn't continuing Cocina del Abuelo? She loved the restaurant since she was little, and she was here more than me. I couldn't believe that it was just for the money. This was not my sister. Hello? I said into my phone. I had got a phone call on my landline, while I was getting ready for a date, tightening this miserable corset. Hi, Camilla, it's your mama. Sophia agreed to meet with us about the will and everything, and she didn't show up, and she's not answering her phone, and I'm really concerned. Your papa and I are headed to her house now, please come with, she said. Oh, goodness, Mama. I'm coming. I told her and hung up the call. I grabbed my purse and my cell and ran down to my car. Joshua would have to wait, something was definitely up. As weird as she was acting the other day, she would never stand up my parents. That's just rude and unlike her. Her house was like 5 minutes away from my apartment, so I was able to get there quickly. When I turned the corner, my heart sank. There was a police car sitting beside the house, with an ambulance aside. The flashing red and blue lights surrounded me like they were the only thing there. It put me into a panic. I got out of my car, leaving it in the middle of the road, and ran to my parents, standing outside of the house. They looked at me, sourly, and pointed. A couple of police officers quickly ran to me and hoisted me into a police car. My hands uncuffed, I began to bang on the windows and yell. What in the world was happening? An officer opened the door and pushed me to the ground, immediately trapping me with handcuffs. What's happening? Why are you arresting me? Please, is my sister okay? I asked, helpless. Like you don't know. You killed her. Now shut up and get into the car, the other one of the officers screamed at me. I hurried into the car. Killed her? No. You must be mistaken. Please, I didn't. I love her. I don't want to go to jail. I shouted. The second officer reached back from the passenger's seat and hit me with a baton. Shoulda thought about that before you killed her, monster, he told me. That was all it took to keep me quiet. I felt like I lived in New Jersey. They hadn't gathered any proof to my knowledge that I had committed this sick crime, which I didn't, and just immediately accused me and took me into custody without any questioning or interrogation. I wasn't even sure if this was legal. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how odd this actually was. I mean, there wasn't any equipment in the front seats of the car, and the flashing lights looked like clip-ons you could buy at Walmart. There was really nothing to indicate that it was real. The officers were equipped with guns, but the outfits looked like Halloween costumes. The ambulance also was literally just a white van. This scared me, but relieved me. I could have just been kidnapped, and Sophia could still be alive. We had finally arrived after what felt like 1,000 hours. The car was parked in front of a warehouse. Yup, this operation is shit, I thought to myself as the ambulance pulled up and parked right beside it. I watched as they opened the doors and pulled a body bag out of the car. I almost cried. My sister was actually dead. My big sissy who got me through it all, dead. But I soon regained hope as I saw something in the body bag move. Like a person trying to get out. Sophia. Sophia. I screamed. The kidnapper hit me with the baton. Camilla. I heard the faint scream of Sophia. I tried to get out of the car, but the kidnappers just yelled at me. Then I remembered it was all fake, which means the handcuffs were probably plastic. I tried with all my might to break them open, as the kidnappers were getting out of the car, about to drag me into the warehouse. With every last bit of hope, the cuffs snapped right as one of the men were opening the door. I kicked him in the nuts, knocking him down, and began to run to a payphone I saw nearby whilst we were driving. The other man followed, chasing me with a dagger. As I was running, I tripped over a rock and tried to get up as fast as I could, but he was too fast. He flipped me over and stabbed me in the stomach. I started to pray because I knew I was gonna die right then and there, when I didn't feel any pain. Then I remembered. The corset. The awful corset I was wearing for my date had just saved my life. I pulled the dagger from my stomach and did the same thing the man had done to me. I stabbed him. He fell to the ground, and I quickly hurried to the payphone. I was able to call the cops and they were over in less than a minute. Sophia and I were luckily safe, except I wasn't quick enough. They had chopped off 2 of her fingers, but she was still alive and healthy. She explained that the men came into her home demanding she sell them restaurant, or they would kill her. I ended up inheriting Cocina del Abuelo, because Sophia couldn't bring herself to it after this incident. So that is why we locked the doors in our home. My 6-year-old daughter looked at me in terror. Can you put a lock on my door?